Royce. Daniel Malin! Wonderful!
Fantastic from Royce. Jude Bellingham, that's excellent. Jude Bellingham, this is absolutely brilliant. Jude Bellingham! Absolutely magnificent.
Reina, brilliant from the American. Just like that.
Not the best of clearances. Oh, what a volley! Mats Hummels!
Grant in for Holland! Like he's never been away!
Hey, welcome to... Oh, no!
In front of goal, who is simply deadly!
Hey, welcome to the BVB podcast. Struggling right off the bat. I was like, wow, that intro came up way quicker than I thought, and then it's all good. Here we are. We're good to go.
A BVB podcast first. That's funny.
It did. I don't know if I said it. Welcome to the BVB podcast. My name's Jake. Carver is with me as always. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. Yourself?
Doing pretty good. It's been clearly it's been a while. I mean, it's I feel like it's been forever since we've recorded last. It has been a little longer. We waited a little longer than what we usually do to record podcasts. But I mean, coming off or starting the intro like that, you feel like it's probably been like a couple months. Like we already took our summer break, which we have not. But yeah. With that said, though, it has been a crazy week. A lot happening. We got some new signings. We lost a coach. We got a coach. The women are going up. Yeah, a lot of big stuff happened this week.
And
so how are you feeling about it?
It was already going to be a loaded episode with our season recap and the player ratings, accolades, all of that, and then with just the Hoza departure, and then with the women's promotion game. There's just a lot to cover today. So
yeah, so we'll start with the women's. We'll jump right into the women's, and no, I'm not gonna say get that out of the way because I think a little bit later on, maybe in the summer, we'll have Adam back on, or we'll get a nice because they have one more game to play. So they still have a big cup game to play for, which is coming up this weekend. I might mention that a little bit later in the podcast. But yesterday, as of recording this on Thursday, they had a game on Wednesday, which was their promotion playoff game, and they won. They kind of cruised. They won 4-0. They went down a woman. They got a red card pretty early in the game, being up 1-0, but were able to still handle the game cleanly. And they are officially moving up to I think it's the
Berserk Liga.
Yeah. And so it's super exciting for them. And like I said, they're not done yet. They still have one more game, which is a cup final, which is super exciting. So big day. I'm not working this week. I've been off, which was nice. I got to actually pay attention and watch the full game, which was awesome. So that was exciting. Any other thoughts on the women, Carver?
Yeah, I mean, obviously huge congrats to them. A very successful first season. I watched the game as well. I was at work, but thankfully, Dortmund has the YouTube live stream every once in a while for certain games, and whether it be like the U19s or whatever. But this time they had the women's versus TV Brechten, and they didn't look too threatening, really. That in my opinion, that pretty much that entire game. So a little bit of a cruise, but yeah, regardless, we go up. Very happy for them.
Yeah. Yeah, women controlled even when we were down there, still in full control of the game, which was exciting to see. But I mean, they'd kind of been cruising through this whole season, so very good to see it. It makes me even more excited to see them go up and get some tougher competition and see how they continue to play out. But I mean, they've been playing some tougher competition and still winning, so it's exciting moving forward. And we'll have updates about them as we go. And again, shout out to Adam, who's joined us on the show before. Make sure you follow him at Foosball Tweets. And I'll link all his stuff too, because if you want to know anything about the women, he's the guy. He will get you taken care of.
He's killing it.
Yeah, he does some great work. So big shout out to him. And yeah, so in this episode, we are going to we're recapping this season. We're going to go through stats. We're going to go through some player accolades. Big shout out to everyone who got involved on Twitter and Instagram and sent us some emails. Plug in the emails again. To get some votes in for player ratings and everything. So we're going to go through those. But we have to start with the big news. Of course, there's signings to talk about, but the real big news that Rosa is out. Was fired, let go. They parted ways. Who knows what really went down. Yeah. No, I didn't see this coming. I know, like, I was kind of back and forth. Like, sometimes I was like for Rosa. Sometimes I was like, maybe he's not the guy. Like, I was kind of up and down this whole season. That's where I was. And then, a lot of people kind of felt the same way. A lot of people were backing him because obviously the injuries. But to actually see it happen, I was like, I still had those mixed feelings. I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe that was the right move. And then I'm like, maybe it wasn't the right move. Maybe you should get a real shot at this. So, I mean, what were your initial thoughts seeing the news?
Yeah, it's just baffling. Even after letting the dust settle after a few days, it's baffling. And I want to be clear that even if you weren't really on the Rosa train this season, no one could have seen this coming. It was completely out of the blue. And as time goes on, it becomes more and more apparent that this departure of Rosa was not planned. And it's not even necessarily like a sacking. It was just kind of like a departure between both parties. And, just to quickly recap, in case anyone hasn't heard some of these details, so reports came out last Thursday on the 19th, I think, saying there was a meeting between members of the front office, including Vatska, Matthias Sommer, Kale, Terzic, and Rosa. And this meeting was apparently just 2 hours long in its entirety, which is obviously pretty damn short for analyzing the entire season, let alone assessing Rosa's role as manager going forward, which begs the question, what happened during this meeting? And, the answer is we may never know. We may never know who instigated what during that meeting that ended up cutting things so short. And, I know it's easy to shit on Vatska right now online, mostly on Twitter, and say that he pushed Rosa out the door, but it's obviously a bit more complicated than that. I would imagine there's plenty enough blame to go around, and you can point fingers at whoever, but my best educated guess of what happened during that meeting is a combination of Rosa's shortcomings being exposed in front of the board and stuff, and which I will get to in a second. But on the other hand, the board initially probably feeling indifferent about Rosa's appointment initially to begin with, given the success and the relationship that Terzic built, or began building at least, towards the end of his last few months in charge.
Yeah, shout out to Stefan from the Yellow Wall podcast, who he was talking about after this news broke, and they did, which we shouted him out on Twitter. No beef here with no podcast beef or anything. Like, you should listen to Yellow Wall podcast. And they did an episode before the signing of Terzic, but if that's something you want to go back and listen to, highly recommend it. And he made per the 2 hour meeting, he made the assessment that, season recap podcasts should be longer than 2 hours when you're assessing a whole season. So the fact that their board and coaches meeting lasted only 2 hours is pretty wild and nuts. And clearly something that was beyond just a season recap, but something broke down during that meeting. And
No, I completely agree. I know they did a great episode analyzing that, and Matthias and Stefan from the Yellow Wall Pod, and obviously go check them out. They did a great episode on that stuff. But I understand that going back, no one knew what this meeting was going to be about, and who knows who instigated what in that meeting. Again, I don't think this was planned at all. I don't even think the board planned on doing this before that meeting. I think it just, maybe it got heated and someone was maybe thin-skinned, and I think both parties just kind of went, all right, it's not really worth going forward to collaborate anymore, and see ya.
Yeah. So without looking ahead to who we do have appointed as coach, new coach Terzic, what are your Carver and I haven't talked much. We texted a little bit here and there. Had some crazy personal week. I did so, and Carver too. Carver was moving. I had some stuff going on, so we haven't really talked much. So Carver, I'm just curious, what were your thoughts? I guess where do you stand with Rosa? Would you have wanted him to stay another season? What?
Another season, another full season? I don't know. It depends on how he would have done the first month or two.
Yeah. Do you think it was the right call firing him?
Maybe not at this time. I don't know. But at the same time, I also understand that given the appointment of Terzic, they probably just wanted to give him a full, proper preseason to get everything in line and get a structure going to kind of prepare more for next season. Even though a lot of these signings, I think Rosa did have a lot of the influence of those transfers. But that's my best educated guess of, how the board wanted to go forward with the appointment of Terzic, which, I understand that after Favre's departure or his sacking, the club wanted another big name in this squad like Rosa. And at the time, we activated his release clause before the season even ended. And that's what made Terzic the interim manager. And, after Terzic started gaining momentum and found some success, not just winning the Pokal, but also building relationships and an optimistic atmosphere overall within the dressing room, I think the board kind of, just wanted to maybe try to pull back and think like maybe he was the right appointment all along. But of course, you can't go ahead and say, no, never mind to Rosa because you've already activated that release clause. So I think the board was maybe just taking this opportunity to move forward with a different candidate.
Yeah. As far as Rosa getting sacked or them parting ways or however you want to look at it, like I said earlier, I still have these mixed thoughts and feelings, but I think I'm leaning more towards, I think it was the right move. Because obviously the injuries, you can't look past the injuries. I said that before in defense of Rosa earlier in the season. You can't look past the injuries, and this team wasn't built out by Rosa. There weren't any real signings besides Kobo. So it didn't really feel like a Rosa team. So yeah, it's like let him sign some people, let him really build out this team, hopefully get a run where you don't have all the injuries. And I still stand behind that. I think if he would have got this next season, it would have been better, pending we didn't have another injury onslaught again. But part of me still feels like we just saw so much. Maybe we didn't see anything or see enough throughout the season. Even given the injuries, it just seemed like there were so much inconsistencies with not lineup choice, but lineup formations. Because I'm on the belief that you have your system, you have what you want to play. You have to play it regardless of I understand you have to tweak some formations here and there, and maybe some gameplay situations you're going to tweak the formation. But the fact that we didn't know what formation he was going to go with, even if you have say you want Holland up top, this is just very broad, but say I want my striker up top, Holland, whatever. Okay, Holland's out. You just plug in Malin there. You plug in your striker. You plug players in where they fit, not just change everything completely to the point where week by week we had no clue how we were going to line up or anything. Yeah. Does that make sense? I just feel like there's so much inconsistency there, and it seemed like there was no true game plan or I can't say that word, ideology or structure or anything. It's like he didn't show enough in that sense that makes me want to keep him around, give him a real go. I just see so much inconsistency, or I guess I didn't see enough of something that I'm fine with just moving on, especially given how Terzic ended the season last year, and because I'm not because he's been such a big part of the club already, Terzic, I have no problem with. Obviously, he played a part in these signings too. The guys coming in, and yeah, obviously, Rosa probably had a say in I want Sule and Schlotterbeck. Well, nobody's going to turn down those players anyways. They come into any team and improve any team. So it's not I don't look at those guys as specific Rosa signings, because you could plug them into any team and they're going to make an improvement. So I kind of think same thing with Adeyemi. I think he plugs into this team and he can make an improvement too. Regardless of what I said before about Adeyemi, I mean, we hashed out the Adeyemi stuff last week. I think as the role and position he's going to play, I think he's going to be an improvement, give us some depth. So as far as signings, I don't think these guys are necessarily just Rosa signings, and that part doesn't worry me at all.
Yeah. So going back, I mean, again, Rosa, his lineups were picked for him probably 80% of the time due to those injuries. And for me, it's not even really matter or too much of a problem with the formations as much as it is just the actual system and philosophy of his game. I mean, again, sit here almost every week going I don't know what our game plan is in this game. I mean, let alone a backup game plan. He never really has anything for that or any sort of answers when things go south, which, to be clear, things did go south, which seemed like almost every single game this season. But I mean, the pressing, as I've mentioned a handful of times, it's so half-hearted and we couldn't win the ball back as well as in my opinion, as well as we could or should. I mean, go back under Terzic. He's not that philosophically developed or tactically developed. I'll give him that. He's very young. He's pretty inexperienced, but at the same time, the team spirit, optimism, and motivation that he brought into that team to go actually out and compete and want to press as a unit, which is what I'm always trying to reiterate. I think that's one of the big deciding factors between both coaches' game plans. Under Rosa, again, very half-hearted, and the team just didn't look like they wanted to buy into his philosophy too much, and it looked like there really wasn't one to begin with. Defending completely out the window. We were outclassed in I don't know how many games this season, even with a lot of our starters. I know injuries run back and didn't have that many available personnel, but at the same time, you can point to probably 5 or 6 games easy this past season where you did have players like Holland or 2 center backs in Kobo starting, consistent center backs, and you are still completely getting outclassed, even at home and in front of our full capacity stadium as well. So I think that is something that the board definitely took into account. But yeah, for me, it's the pressing was one of the big things that caught my eye because, watching Terzic last season, once he started gaining momentum and more respect over the locker room, I think those players really just had a lot more belief in themselves and confidence in themselves to go out and press well and act as a unit during those games.
Yeah. And even though I'm on board with maybe it was the right call to depart with Rosa, I still don't know if I'm like completely on board with Terzic right off the bat. Like, yeah, he's our guy. I don't think I would have been. I think my initial thought was like, well, who the heck is going to come in? He wasn't my thought like, oh, he's the solution. He's the answer. He needs to be our manager. I think looking at what he did, it does excite me. It excites me more to give him a full season, to give him the reins. During his announcement video, one thing I love how happy and excited he looked. Like that got me hyped up just to see how thrilled he was, because there were almost reports last season that like he didn't want the coach's position. He didn't want to be the head manager. And I don't know how much truth was in those. I don't know if last year it's like I'm not saying he did it half-heartedly, but he did it knowing he was just the filler. And it seemed like maybe there wasn't an option for him to be the head manager. But like to see how much joy he had on his face, like signing that contract, I was like, sweet. I'm really happy for him. Again, do we need someone a little more experience? Maybe he needs to go get more experience and then come back to Dortmund. Obviously, we're just going to have him right off the bat and see how it goes. But I am, so I don't know if he's the answer, but yeah, it's definitely better to bring him in now than to say like, sack Rosa halfway through next season and then bring him in again. Yeah.
No, I agree. And I remember seeing those reports that came out last year. He didn't necessarily wasn't looking to be like a full-time manager or anything like that. But I think it was him being self-aware of like, maybe I kind of want to go learn more of the inner workings of the front office of this club that I care so much about, and maybe come back at a different time that I have a little bit more knowledge on the matter. And that, I think he had offers as well. If I'm not wrong, he had an offer to coach at Frankfurt, and he turned that down because he just wanted to stick with Dortmund. But I think any sane person of that stature and ability like Terzic wouldn't turn this down. I mean, I think he now has a little bit more insight of the club, and he obviously has that experience. It's not much, but it is experience and it is success. I mean, he won the Pokal with us, and he got the dressing room on his side as well, which is the number one key to success in general as a manager. You walk into that dressing room day one, and you need to have everyone backing you. It is something that cannot go understated.
Yep. So I mean, we should probably dive into some of these signings. I guess, is there only been one official signing?
What do you mean one official? Oh, like
within the last week, I guess.
Okay. Well, yeah. So I guess one was. I see what you're saying. One was Ozchan, which is, thankfully we got number 6. I've been saying that since even before Adeyemi, that number 6 should be our number one priority. And not saying he is like the answer to everything, or even he's like, a true number 6 through and through, but he is someone who could definitely play in that role and has been in an aggressive system before, knows the Bundesliga, and had a terrific season last year, and had plenty of. I think he ranked really well in interceptions and won a lot of duels as well. Someone that's going to bring that grit. Someone that we've been lacking like since Delaney, really, for a lot of those kind of tough to break down Bundesliga teams. So I think he's a terrific signing, especially at the price. I think we got him for under 10, if I'm not wrong, which is a steal.
Yeah, I don't know much about him. That's something I'm going to work on a lot next season, is watching more of the Bundesliga outside of Dortmund. I kind of, with all the games, or granted, I can watch the replays whenever I want, but all the games are usually at the same time. So I usually just watch Dortmund and don't get a lot of other games in. So that's something I just want to be better at. But so I don't, with that said, I haven't paid too much attention to him. But I mean, he's been playing. I know he's been playing and playing well, and to get him for a pretty low price is great. And he's fairly young. He's like
24. I believe he's 24.
He way better than what I was thinking. So, good signing, and it's what we've been looking at. And just another thing to point to is this is so early too. Like, we still have so much of the summer left, that it just excites me that we're going to get a few more guys in, and we haven't seen anyone leave yet, which is the exciting thing too.
That's what I was going to...
More people going out, more people we can bring in, so...
That's what I was going to tap on at the end, is I wonder how much more money is left to spend for this summer, given, we've done terrific with our business so far. Don't get me wrong. I mean, but at the same time, this is a club that doesn't, splash on players much at all. And I think this is like our biggest summer when it comes to spending yet. So, I mean, for us to go out and potentially find an attacker, that's going to be a big ask in my opinion, but who knows? Again, I don't know the financials of the club, but I think we've done terrific so far though.
Yeah. And I'm going to just reiterate that because Terzic is already part of the system and has been working with the team. It's not like we have to wait for a couple months for our coach to start. Like, he's already been in the thick of it. He's already going to be very familiar and probably had a lot to say with these signings. So that's just, we're already running there. We have no downtime, which is great. And there's not even no backtracking, because like I said, he's already been part of the system, which just makes it even more exciting too. So
yeah, I'm really excited for Terzic. I mean, I'm really hoping that he's going to be the answer for a manager that we can actually keep for a while and build some momentum and solidarity within our club, because I mean, I think we've been through six or seven managers since Klopp. I mean, the Klopp hangover is real, and we've just been struggling to find any sort of replacement for him that's half as decent. So I'm not saying Terzic is going to have all those answers right out the gate, but hopefully he's something we can actually build around and build a project around for the next decade, maybe.
Yeah, and that's what it seems like.
If all goes well, who knows?
Yeah, that's what it seems like with signing him. It's like they're backing a project. It's not like we need to sign a coach and try to win the Bundesliga. Ideally, we can win next season. That's what we're making these signings for. But it seems like this is more of a project. Like, they obviously need to give him time, and it seems like that's what they're backing and signing on for. So it's exciting.
Yeah, but it's the hope that kills you, though, Jake. I mean, I hate myself because every single summer I'm looking at the squad, man. I genuinely think this is the year that we can finally compete and tip Bayern off. And then come May, I'm like, I was talking about next year.
Hey,
so
if
I don't know, I remain optimistic because I genuinely do.
If the hope kills you, I'm gonna, which I'm big Ted Lasso fan, and I know that got a big upping in Ted Lasso, and I'll get behind that phrase all day long. But I'm gonna change it up a little bit. It's the hope that tries to kill you. But you know what? You can't freaking kill this hope, because if this hope was killed and if it was dead, wait, I messed up my sentence. If the hope killed me,
that's how you know you're wrong.
We wouldn't be doing this podcast right now.
I'm just doing it for the clout.
All right. Well, okay. So we don't have any other official signings, not that I know of. Who knows? It happens before. We're going to release this episode and we'll probably sign someone tomorrow. It's a Friday. They might head in the weekend with some exciting news. So we'll see what happens. But I know there's been some links. looks like just from Twitter and online, it seems like there's some photos of other guys in and out of the club, maybe doing their medical, maybe taking some photos. So we could see some more signings. I'm not that familiar at all. I've just seen the name when he came up, but a goalkeeper that we're looking to sign that could be official.
Yeah, we have two number 2s that we're looking at. One of them is Lotka, the young goalkeeper from Berlin. I think it's just a matter of which I'm pretty sure I could have sworn we were talking right before we were recording that was already confirmed, but maybe not. I imagine everything just probably took a halt after the Rosa meeting. But Loka, young keeper from Berlin, I think it's just a matter of if we want to invest in him as an actual number 2, or just maybe if we're looking to sign him on and then send him to the U23s or something like that, or the second team, because I think he's a keeper that probably needs a little bit more time than that at an actual, this kind of level. And the other one was Alexander Meyer from the second division and the second Bundesliga division, excuse me. And he's just an experienced keeper, big guy, 6'5". I think he could bring a little bit more experience and leadership to our team, as well as, that size is huge in goal. If you also have the ability on top of that, I think it could be a proper number 2 as well.
All right, we should probably get into the. We've been going for about half an hour, but it's probably time we get into that actual recap.
It was going to be a long episode already. I was texting you the other day. I was like, man, with the ratings, it's going to take a while. But then on top of that, all this goddamn news over the past 6 or 7 days, it's going to be one listeners can settle in for.
Not that I'm mad about it.
No.
Yeah, no, and I don't think any listeners are mad or upset either. I think from the positive feedback we've got, big shout out to everyone who has reached out and said some very nice words. So to the few who have reached out and given us positive feedback, if we go hella long today, it's for you. Thank you for listening and enjoying our words.
We got a lot of responses too for the
half the time I just say stupid crap.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I gave a shout out at the beginning of the episode, but yeah, big shout out. We put a bunch of tweets out, getting your guys' votes and everything, and who you thought deserve some shout outs and praise, and our accolades we're going to give out. So thank you to everyone who reached out and voted, because literally it could just be Carver and I saying our thoughts, but because you actually participated and are involved in this podcast, and you're an active participant, which means you get your voice, and we actually got a lot of votes for players and stuff. So this is more of a reflection of your guys' thoughts and not just me and Carver over here blabbing. So we appreciate it.
Yeah. So we have ratings, and then we also have accolades that we'll do after that. But for the ratings, I just want to point out that we're doing players that at least started 10 games or have played 15 games, because if we wanted to do the entire squad, I wouldn't want to have listeners sit through 3 hours. So
I don't want to sit through that.
We just did players who started 10 games or played 15, starting with the manager, Rosa, which I wrote him before even the departure. We did out of 10. Now I did decimals on a handful of players as well, but I gave Rosa a 6.5, 6.5. A few different notes here. Just, again, still unsure of his tactics. We never really saw a consistent tactical vision whatsoever this season. No backup game plan ever to games that went south would seem like every game. Useless late substitutions constantly, and getting knocked out of every cup competition way too early and looking abysmal in the cup competitions in general. And just overall not that convincing in my opinion. But at the same time, still secured second pretty early on somehow. I have no idea how we did that, but we did. And he's a solid man manager for the most part. I know that was one of the bigger complaints for people with Favre. He was an old dude who didn't really look like he was too involved in the dressing room outside of the pitch or off the pitch. So I think Rosa definitely brought that a little bit more to this club. But those are probably the two biggest redeeming things that came to mind for me. But yeah, I still gave it 6.5. What do you think?
So I'm going to have 2 ratings, because I think there's the pre-departure of Rosa and then the post-departure of Rosa, which they don't change that. They don't change that much. But I would, because it's kind of, you can look at it glass half full or glass half empty. So pre-departure of Rosa, I probably would have given him a 7, because I would look more to I would look more to the injuries that he was dealt, and he basically could not pick a team, and the fact that we still secured second pretty comfortably. So that obviously makes it look a little better. Now that he's gone, though, I would say 6. And it's everything I said before, the inconsistency. I don't know what's going on. Do you have a game plan? Maybe a 6.5, because really early in the year, I gave a shout out to him and his hair, which I'm still a fan of, and I'm going to miss it on the sidelines. But yeah. So I guess really I'd give him a 6.
Yeah, I would say that's perfect. You gave him started to give him a 7 and went to a 6, and I gave a 6.5. So we're right in that sweet spot.
Yeah.
Next is Kobo, which a lot of people shout him out as our player of the season. I gave him an 8. Actually feel safe with him in goal, which I can't remember the last time I've said that about a keeper at Dortmund. I mean, we've had solid keepers in the past 7 or so years since Weidenfeller, but I mean, I just haven't had that, that feeling of just like actual safety with a keeper in goal. I mean, anything that a keeper does, Kobo can do it better almost. I mean, any keeper you could think of, he's an insanely solid actual goalkeeper. I mean, his reflexes and saving ability is uncanny. Decent distribution on the ball as well, and he's young, so he makes mistakes here and there. But again, I think he's a really solid keeper going forward. I mean, in a proper investment. So I gave him an 8.
Yes, I would agree. 8, and I'm not going to just copy all your scores. Hopefully, that's not how this ends up. Hopefully, we have a little like our scores vary a little bit going throughout, but yeah, definitely deserves an 8. One of our best players. We're definitely going to give him a lot more praise, I think, when we talk about our accolades, because he gets a lot of shouts from you guys, the listeners. One stat, which this spoiler is going to come up in our underrated, but he sits 12th in the Bundesliga. I pulled up all the Bundesliga stats. I didn't pull up like overall Europe and everything full season, but Bundesliga stats. He's came up as 12th in the league for saves with 81 saves. But as we've talked about before, it's not all his fault. He's such a good keeper. He made a lot of those saves were like huge saves that kept us in games, that helped us win games. He's such a good keeper and saved our butts so many times. He deserved a lot of praise, and I would also give him a solid 8. He was fantastic.
Yeah, I think 12 is a little underwhelming given how incredible that he looked, in my opinion, for this season. But yeah, I think it's just he's young, so he's going to make mistakes, whether it be just on the ball. He kind of had some boneheaded mistakes here and there. And he's, again, since he's young as well, his positioning isn't the best, but it's not bad by any means either. So yeah, really excited to see him going forward. I think even by next season, he's going to be one of the best, if not already the best keeper in the league.
Yeah, I think next season he's going to get a lot more praise from the league and media. There was some here and there that I saw on like the ESPN's coverage of Bundesliga. Like he was getting some praise. It's just like people did recognize that it wasn't all his fault, all the goals that we were leaking. But I think next year even more so, he's going to be really high up there with. I mean, we're gonna have a much more solid defense, so that's going to put the clean sheets up. That's gonna, put his stats up, and hopefully he gets, he just shoots up those rankings.
Mats Hummels is next. I have him at a 7. I think this was a sort of underwhelming season for him compared to his last 2 seasons here, or at least coming back from being a Bayern player. But this season, I think he's mentally switched off a lot more than he should have at times, which makes him more error prone. But overall, still a leader in this team and provides a lot of good moments when needed. Yeah, solid 7 I thought was pretty reasonable.
I'm going to go 6.5. This is not all performance-based, though, my rating. I'm just going to say I was just so disappointed to see so little of him. And even like towards the end of the season, it was like, what? Because I guess, was there an official like injury, or do you think he was just kind of recovering from COVID? Because I know at one point he had COVID, and then we kind of just didn't see him again. I don't remember seeing an injury, so maybe he was recovering from that.
Yeah, I think he also just had an unrelated illness that wasn't COVID as well.
Okay.
But he picks up knocks. Players, the older you get, you're going to pick up more knocks.
I do remember earlier on in the season commenting about, I think he came back in and just the amount of like headers he would win like on the halfway line to keep our press up high, and keep the ball in the opponent's half. Like seems like he can always be there and win those balls. So a lot of praise for that. I love Hummels, and a 6.5 is more me being disappointed in how little we saw him this year. I think.
Yeah, I agree. Manuel Akanji up next. I gave a 7.5. It was originally an 8, but just the past 2 or so months kind of left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth for Akanji. He's been our best defender this year. I don't think it's really that even close. But yeah, just towards the end of the season, I don't know if it's just a matter of just him kind of being fed up with the club, but it looks like he just didn't care too much, made a lot of really needless mistakes and unnecessary mistakes, and cost us a handful of really unnecessary goals as well in big moments.
I would go 7. Also, I was going to give a shout. I don't remember who voted, but someone, people are probably going to say that's a little high from you, Carver. I'm just going to say, because I think it's a lot more, it rides on emotion and people not being happy with him overall to give him a 7.5. But someone did give him 1 vote for our underrated player of the season. So someone's along the same lines as you a little bit there. So I would give him a 7. And then I was also going to point out one Bundesliga stat. He came in at number 2 in the league for successful passes from open play with 92.35%.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is, you look back at his tenure here at Dortmund, and his past 4 seasons easily been his best season under us. And it's not even a question. You can go back to his passing. I mean, it's not even just like the sideways, boring Witzel type like passes. I mean, he is breaking a lot of pressing lines, someone who could take the ball out from deep and, bring the ball forward and push everyone forward. I mean, he is a master at that. So I don't think a 7.5 is too high, but best season with us by far.
Yeah. There's been part of me that I'm like, what? I'm kind of thinking, what if he sticks around? What if he sticks around? I know there's been all these rumors and reports, and maybe it's just because I haven't seen any links, like solid links that he's out yet. Like, what if he sticks around?
Be good. A club that would be perfect for him is Manchester United. I mean, they are desperate for a center back right now. You would think Varane would be the answer to that, but Akanji would be someone that could really be a ball playing defender, because God knows Maguire is not that. And, it's the Man United tax as well. I mean, they're overspending on every player. So I think that could be someone we could try to get out the door and cash in on, because, his value is his stock value is at an all-time high. Zagadou.
Yeah. Those are the only links I've kind of seen. Yeah.
Zagadou, this hurts me to say, but I gave him a 6. Had decent moments throughout the season, but they were very limited. To put it simply, an incredibly massive liability, error and injury prone, which seems like every single game. Not much to really highlight on from Zagadou.
Yeah, I'll go with a 6 too. He's not someone who I felt secure about being in the back. And I was more surprised often than not when he did something good, when he didn't make a mistake, when he made a good.
Me too.
Yeah.
Which just when you think he would start to build a little bit more momentum, when he came back here and there, he would just immediately throw himself down the pecking order with conceding a penalty, giving away needless fouls, whatever, you name it. Emory Chan, I have at a 7. Solid utility player. I mean, he's just someone that is ready to go at any place we want to put him. Slotted in really well in our back 3. I mean, you can go back to games like Mainz this season or a handful of other games where he just completely bossed our defense and organized us extremely well when we were in an injury crisis. Also converted a lot of crucial penalties. I mean, I would not take him for him being someone that could put those away, but I don't think he missed any in the league. And a great leader in this team. And he's on a high amount of wages. I'll concede that, but and he's got some errors to work out of his game. Also, I don't want to try to throw that under the rug too much either. But, I think he's made a lot of improvements from the previous season under Terzic. And again, a great utility player for seasons where we have injury crisis.
Yeah. I have him at a 7.5. I kind of want to give him a little more, but I think what I'm going to rank other players, I can't give him more. But such a good utility player, like you said. I've given him a lot of praise before, just the roles he's been able to step into. And I talked a lot about I think it was the last episode of the week before, maybe, where I talked about the trust. Now Rose is gone, but I was like, I don't see Chan moving this summer because I feel like Rose can trust him so much that he's going to stick around and can continue to be an important player for us. And I think he still can. And I like him a lot, and I hope he sticks around. But yeah, I'd give him a 7.5. And I feel like he could have had a much better season if he didn't have to be so much of a utility and kind of had one role, whether it was like a center back, right back, or whatever.
I'm starting to think his best position might be in that back three, but yeah, I want to go higher, but it's just like his errors, which are mostly on the ball. I mean, he makes some defensive errors here and there, but it's just like in the big games when he's on the ball, he's giving the ball away in possession completely needlessly. And again, you don't have anyone to back you up when you're in a back three, so it's just a straight giveaway and an easy opportunity for players to score, or an opposition to score. So, yeah. I mean, he was humiliated a small handful of times in games like against Leipzig at home. So, yeah, it's a decent shout, though. Next up, Thomas Munier. I have him at a 7.5. I mean, honestly, when I want to think about this, what part of his game hasn't dramatically improved since his first season? I mean, I was one of the biggest critics of him. I wanted him out from like the second game of last season. I just couldn't think of a single thing he did right. I could get into the list of whatever, but I'm rather going to talk about his positives because he turned everything around. I mean, he defends and attacks miles better across the board. His decision-making is also miles better. His crosses went from being a literal meme to delicious and actually kind of sexy at times. I mean, how many assists did he have this season? Overall, a massive improvement in his second year as a Borussen.
Yeah. I'll go 7.5 also. It just sucks that he got injured. And I remember that. Well, it was probably the episode where he scored 2 headers off the Brandt corner kicks, but we were just like going off on him and how great he was. And I think even before we were Brandt boys, we were Munier men, maybe how you want to phrase it. But yeah, I think it was at our season, we had him as I don't know if he was our MVP of at the winter break, but we had him up there as like most improved, or I don't remember, but we were very high on him at the halfway point of the season.
Improved, yeah.
Yeah. And it was such a bummer to see him go down. So, and to not have him these last couple months.
Yeah, no, it's been a minute. It's been a minute. He had that. I forget what kind of injury he had now that I'm thinking about it, but I mean, he was out since I think it was February, and yeah, it was the game against Rangers when he came off at half. So, yeah. Next up, Rafa. 6.5 coming from me. Sadly, in my opinion, his worst season with us. He's been here for, I think, 5 years now. And very underwhelming across the board. Excuse me, not 5 years, 6 years. I mean, he had memorable moments, had some really nice goals. I mean, he's always due for a really nice goal, whether it be outside the box or, different with his the outside of his foot as well. I mean, he has a wide range of different abilities in front of goal, but yeah, just really underwhelming overall. I mean, constantly getting dusted at the back whenever we try to play him as a fullback, and couldn't bring what we know he is capable of in attack in most of the season.
Yeah, I'm going 6. It was rough. I think you hit on everything. I don't have anything to add except just so many times we got caught out on that left side, and it was just rough. And he didn't give us enough going forward this season to make up for the lapses in the back.
That was a big thing for me too. It's like, okay, you can judge him harshly on his defense, but at the end of the day, he's not choosing where he plays. And if he's going to be a fullback, then he's got to be a little bit more, responsible in defense. But at the same time, even going forward, it's like he didn't offer much at all.
Yeah,
he really didn't. Pongracic. I have him at a 6.5 as well.
Okay. These next two we're going to go into. Say, I'm surprised they even got 15 games or 10 starts.
Yeah, that's what you got to keep in mind for some of these players. Yeah, that is a bit surprising to me as well. Pongracic started the season really well. I mean, saved our ass on countless occasions early on. You know, our first game or one of our first few games away at Gladbach. I think he was our best defender that day, hands down. But just nothing really special about his game at the same time. And he kind of just slowly drifted off as the season wore on. And, you know, at the end of the day, he was kind of a semi-reliable backup CB for our year-long injury crisis, but nothing too insane that, you know, jumped out at me.
Did you say 6.5? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I'm going a little high. I'm going 7 because I don't know. I liked what I saw when I saw it. We didn't get to see it much, and I almost feel, I guess this is on him on the training pitch and what Rosa saw, and maybe that's why Rosa didn't pick him. I don't know what happened behind the scenes or on the training pitch, but anytime he came in, I felt really comfortable with him, and I felt like he even showed a lot on the ball, and I feel like he should have gotten a few more chances, even more so than Zagadou. And so I'm going a little high, but I've said it before, and I liked what I saw from Pongracic, and I wish he would have gotten a few more chances.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably have to disagree a little bit, but at the same time, you know, it's hard, I guess, to kind of play him more instead of Zagadou whenever you know he's going to be going back to Wolfsburg after the season. You're trying to see if you want to extend Zagadou at the same time, so you want to try to see a little bit more of him, but yeah, he did look at times better than Zagadou. Excuse me. Next is Schultz. I have him at a 6.5 as well in a row. I got 6.5. Excuse me. Honestly, I think Schultz's best season with us, which is a pretty fucking low bar, but. But, you know, I don't know, I guess he always gave us 100%, decent attacks here and there, but like Pongracic, nothing special, offers very little in his game overall.
Yeah, I go 6.5 also. I don't have really anything to say about him, just very average when he came on, but yeah, I guess he wasn't like awful. That's why I'm not going to give him a 5 or something. He wasn't completely terrible.
Axel Witsel, I have him at a 7. And I went back and forth between a 6.5 and a 7, you know, might get hate for that, but, you know, he was, and I was very critical of him towards the beginning of the season or the first half of the season. Really slow, doesn't offer much more anymore since his body's taken so many tolls on and off the field and stuff. And, you know, he's an older player, but I think he really turned himself around this second half of the season. I mean, seemed a bit more up to the challenge, brought more stability, composure, leadership, helped our control our midfield really well in certain games, as well as had a few clutch moments as well. So that bumped it up a little bit for me these past 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, I also had a 7, and it was definitely towards the end of the season he started to step up more. I mean, he was called upon a lot, and he came in, he played that role well, he was dependable, he was reliable, got a couple goals. So, yeah, he stepped up quite a bit, and it was exciting to see him. Like, I almost wanted to give him more, but it's like if we would have seen a full season or if he was starting every game, then he could have got a higher ranking. It's just kind of he like saved it at the end, and yeah, he just came in when we needed him to and played his role well. So it was exciting to see. Happy for him. Happy to see him like go out on a high too.
Yeah.
A bit of a high, if you can call it a high. But
yeah, I would call it a high. Yeah, I mean, given also just again the first half of the season was so bleak for him when he was being played at center back, and he was just getting dusted by players like Belfodil at Berlin. So, Dahoud, I have a 7 for him as well. And I almost kind of want to do like a 7.25 instead of a 7.5 for him, like right in the middle. Solid season, but I honestly think he was a little bit better under Terzic last year. So, I mean, there wasn't too many special moments that came to mind for me, but at the same time, you know, he's always bringing intensity, terrific passes and link ups. Help building up from the back is always very crucial for us, and having him in our squad and got us a handful of vital points. I mean, Like the late winner against Frankfurt was, phenomenal as well. One of the moments of the season, if not the moment of the season when it comes to the Bundesliga, which, again, very low bar in my opinion, but just my opinion.
Yeah. I'll go, since you're like trying to stretch a little bit, I'll go 7.5. I'll give him the 0.5 extra.
We'll meet in the middle. That's nice. I'll take that.
Yeah. No, I like it. And, well, part of me, because we've seen so little of him lately, I almost want to rank him lower, but that's just because like we haven't seen him, and it's been a disappointment not to see him. But when you remember like the stuff he did throughout the season, it definitely deserves some praise. And one of our better players, I think, more reliable players when we had him. And that comeback game was, oh man, so good. I titled one of our episodes literally like "Where was Dahoud?" because it was.
I remember that.
Maybe it was the St. Pauli game when he didn't play at all, and we're just like, after he's been playing so well, and I get rest and rotation, but I'm like, what? Like,
yeah. And I think we did finding out like a few days after that he had like a slight knock in the the bottom part of his back or something like that. But yeah, either way. Royce next. I have him at an 8.5, my highest rating so far. Started the most games in his entire tenure at Dortmund this year, which is crazy to say. Has the most assists he's had in the single Bundesliga season as well. Bagged 9 goals, 12 assists, 60 tackles as an attacker, and had the most recoveries out of any player in Europe's top 5 leagues. I don't really know what else you want the man to do, to be honest.
Yeah. He so a couple more stats. I know you said you threw his assists in there. He was third in the Bundesliga with his 12 assists. He was 15th in the Bundesliga for scoring with 9 goals. Duels won, he was 56th in the Bundesliga, which doesn't sound great, but duels won, looking at the full Bundesliga, Dortmund had Bellingham in third, and then Royce was our second highest player at 56th. Yeah. So our second best duels won by a long shot. And then sprints and intensive runs. This is something we talked about in our like half season recap, or mid season recap about him topping the list for intensive runs. He sat 10th and 8th for sprints and intensive runs.
You got to hand it to him.
He was the highest or second. Yeah, he was the second highest Dortmund player in those categories, only behind Bellingham, who sat third.
Yep.
So exactly, what more do you want from him? He came up in big moments when we needed him. Obviously, these last 5 or 6 games, we didn't see much from him, but like he's been pushing it all year. Like you need let the man rest. I think I said it last week. Like the man needs some time to rest and recover. And so it's not surprising that he fell off a little bit towards the end of the season. But yeah, what you said, 8.5.
Yeah,
I'll give him 8.5.
Yeah, and even though his performances weren't the best, he was still bagging a few assists these past few games. And for a man that's about to turn 33 in like 4 days, his work rate is still impeccable.
Yeah.
Toto Hazard next. Oh boy, I have him at a 6. I mean, just extremely underwhelming across the board. I mean, besides his like solo goal at Augsburg, I can't think of anything at all useful he did all season. I really can't, unless I'm forgetting something.
I remember a short run. It was maybe 2 or 3 games where him and Bellingham linked up for like 3 goals.
Mm-hmm.
But that could have, I think you can give more of the praise to Bellingham on that. And he was just in the position to finish the goals.
It's
pretty
not great.
Disappointing, underwhelming season.
Yeah. I mean, his first season with us, he had 7 goals and 13 assists. I mean, 20 goal contributions in the league. And so I thought it was very promising for him moving forward. But then he was ridden with injuries the following season. Only had like 8 starts. And then this season had injuries as well, but also just didn't perform well. Jude Bellingham. I just have a 9. And do we even have to say anything?
Yeah, I agree. 9.2. I thought you were going to say 9.5. So I'm going 9.25. Give him a little extra bonus because what can't this child do? And he's 18.
Yeah.
He's 18 and incredible.
And again, he is a kid.
He's a kid. So let me run through. I mentioned his stats briefly, but as far as assists, he sat 11th in the Bundesliga with 8. Duels won. third in the Bundesliga with 433.
He was the most fouled.
Sprints and intensive runs. He sat third in the Bundesliga. Just like obviously one of the top players in the league, not just our team. He is like, well, we'll get into it later. We'll get into a little bit later with our accolades. But at 18, just one of the top 3 player in some of the ranking categories, top 3 player in the league. Like just insane. And how much
he is. No, I would too. Yeah, I'd say that too.
Yeah. Just like how much trust in how much we have to depend on him. Because like, imagine if he wasn't in this team. Imagine if he got injured. Like, where would we be without him? Like, honestly.
Yeah, the few games that he didn't play, I mean, we got a good taste of that. Given I think he played 32 games out of he's only missed a handful. But one of those games being against Berlin, away at Berlin in December. And I remember that episode just going like, we desperately needed a Jude Bellingham in this game. So, I have him at a 9. I mean, it's not like, I'm not trying to be harsh or anything. I just think there are things that he can improve on because he's only 18. These next few years, it's not going to be, if it continues, developing as well as he is, it's not going to be hard for me to give him even a higher rating. So next I have Marius Wolf. I have a 6.5. I go back and forth between 6.5 and 7, to be honest. Maybe 6.5 is a little harsh, but I just thought 7 was a little too high. But again, a utility player. I think maybe the reason maybe I started at like a 6.5 is because we're kind of forcing him to play fullback as well. And he just wasn't that great defensively, but he also was like better than Rafael Guerrero, in my opinion, defensively. So, and he also offered more. But yeah, just at also times, I think he brought in like he was a workhorse, but didn't really give us the edge that we needed in certain moments.
Yeah.
But a solid return and hopefully a redemption arc for however many years he has left on his contract to come.
Yeah, I'll give him the 7, but I think a lot of that is the effort and the passion that he brings. And the good stuff we get from him is just because he works so hard. And because of that and because of the passion he has and the drive and determination he has, I love him so much. But it's like, I'm sad because it's like, have we seen his ceiling? Like, can he break through anymore? Is this kind of like his ceiling?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I do. I
really want him to next season go even like be better, but I don't know if we're going to see it. I don't know if we're going to see any more from him technically or just on the ball, or I don't know, which is upsetting to me because I love the man, because he loves Dortmund and he just wants to play and provide for this team. So I hope we can see him kind of break through that ceiling that there's like a cap right now, and I don't know if he can get any better. It'd be great if he could, but I give him a 7 purely on his effort.
Yeah. Yep. Next player, Malin, pretty much the exact same kind of thing of, I have a 6.5, but I really wanted to kind of edge towards 7 as well. I mean, it was just so inconsistent here and there for his first season. Now, all that being said, I do believe in the guy. I am personally on the side of we should keep investing time and into his game. I mean, I think he's just going to need a little bit more time to adjust at this higher level and work out some different areas of his game that I think he can improve on, like his decision making. I mean, it's not the best, and I think he's kind of like a one-trick pony in certain regards, kind of like Hazard at times as well. But at the same time, I mean, again, he's got the tenacity, he's got the work rate, he's got the ability in certain moments as well to put. He bagged a handful of goals this season in the league alone. It's 5 goals, if I'm not wrong, and 3 assists, which is, for 30 or 33 million, it's not the best, but he's a player that can definitely improve, and I think he has the potential to improve. So right now, I'm going to give him a 6.5.
Yeah, I'll go 6.5 also. I think part of the setup structure was kind of hindered him a little bit, or his lack of playing time hindered him. And then he also had injuries too, so he couldn't necessarily get a consistent run. And we always didn't see him. He wasn't just the direct replacement for Haaland all the time, or we didn't get to see him come into games. This is what we saw throughout the whole season with Rosa and his weird subs at weird times. Like he maybe wasn't able to develop like he needed to, but we saw some really good things. I'm surprised he only had 5 goals in the league. It seemed like more than that. And I remember the one specifically where a real long ball, I think it was a long ball from Hummels. It was kind of like counterattacking situation where he like ran into the defender and they're like knocked the dude over, but he was also like out of control, but like was able to, like the strength he showed to stay in the run and then get the goal after that was like incredible. So like he has that even as a small guy.
Yeah.
He's got a really good low center of gravity and he knows how to use his body, even though he's small, and he can be really physical. So I think he's got all the accolades to be a good striker and a big physical presence, even if he's not big and physical. And like you said, I don't think there's room to grow. There's not like he's hit a ceiling. Like there's obviously room to grow, and it'd be nice if we can see him progress and grow at Dortmund. I don't know what's going to happen, but yeah, I'd like to see him kick on.
Yeah. And again, 5 goals is just in the Bundesliga. I mean, you look at the Champions League, he only started 5 games in the Champions League and he scored 3 goals. So 3 and 5 is not bad at all for the Champions League. So, I mean, I think he overperformed in that sense. But, again, he's got the tenacity, he's got the work rate, and I think he's got the ability to improve. So, and then last but not least, we have Erling, which I guarantee a lot of our fan base is probably sick of that from hearing from our stadium announcer, but Nubby. But I have Haaland down as an 8.5. I mean, not too much to say besides a goal-scoring machine. He's just an unbelievable finisher. How many goals he scored this season where he's just like, how the fuck does a human do that? I mean, our home game against, I believe it was, now I'm blanking, either Berlin or Mainz, but just the unbelievable half volley you had, like falling over just to chip it over the goalkeeper. Like, that's unbelievable angle. Again, so many unbelievable goals that he scored this season. But at the same time, I think he could do a little bit more with his work rate. It's not like he also didn't miss some easy chances as well. So, I mean, he could have scored even more. And he's definitely improving a hell of a lot with his technical ability, but I think he also can be a little bit better with his holding up play and linking up with other players in attack. So not a near perfect season, but definitely a solid one.
Yeah. I would give him an 8. Purely a little less. I think a little less because I just wish a lot of my rankings are based on emotion and how I feel.
Yeah.
It's not all technically how they played, but just because I wish I would rank, if we saw him play a full season, I'm sure I would have given him like a 9 or something. If he would have produced, and I'm sure he would have, because how many games did he play? And he still got 22 goals in the Bundesliga.
Yeah, he played 24, started 21. So, I mean, he missed a good 10 games. But, yeah, it is sad. I mean, his last season with us, he didn't get to play too much, but he did produce a lot. It wasn't just goals either. I mean, he got 7 assists. That is pretty insane for a striker.
I know. I feel like a lot of the Dortmund fan base, they're going to be mad that we're ranking him so high because they'll probably be, give him a 6, give him a 5, get him out of here. And well, guess what? He's gone, and now we need to replace those 22 goals that he gave us this season alone. He was still our highest goal scorer by a lot. And he was the Bundesliga's 3rd top goal scorer, missing a lot of games. So I don't know how you can be mad about that.
Yeah.
But
all right. So that's it for the ratings. A few accolades here. I guess we could probably start with our player of the season, which we kind of already revealed. But
no. I put him in this order. I put him in this order because I want to end with player of the season. We're going to end there.
Oh, okay.
All right. So. Which we just went off on Haaland, and I'll say it forever. I'm going to miss him. I'm going to miss him a lot. And he did, and this shows how much people are like, nope, whatever, get him out of here. Because we didn't have. I don't think there's like one vote for Haaland in any of our categories. So, which granted, I know he did miss a lot of the season, and I just know people are a little more passionate about some other players, which is why I get it that he didn't. I mean, he didn't get any votes for player of the season, but granted, he was out a lot of the season. So that does make sense. But so we'll start with biggest disappointment. And right off the bat, sorry, my dog is behind me and she's making noise. So biggest disappointment, when I put out these tweets, it was a little vague because most of our accolades were for specific players. This one wasn't necessarily, and I tried to be vague because I wanted to see if we were going to get more, if people were going to go with players or moments in the season. And we should have known it was pretty split. So right off the bat, I'm just going to say basically almost every player got a vote for most biggest disappointment.
And that's fair.
Yeah. So Malin got a vote. I don't know if I understand that. We won't talk through all these, but Malin, Zagadou, Brandt, Schultz, Guerrero, Chan, Holland. Okay, that one was specifically because he missed so much. So a lot of player disappointments.
And Chris from our boy Chris from the St. Louis fan group also said Reyna just because of his injury saga. I mean, it's not really a matter of his play too much, but that was a disappointment within itself. Absolutely.
Yeah. So then I was also going to shout out these moments that people said were disappointing moments of this season, which I agree with all these. I think a lot of us are going to agree with all these, but shout out to BVB fan in Iran said being knocked out of the DFB and Europa League. Sammy _47 said Rosa leaving. So that was a late plug for Rosa leaving, disappointing the season. Yeah, like you said, Chris said the Reyna injury in that saga and the defensive midfield. Nico, our homie Nico, said the loss against St. Pauli, again, DFB. He said we had a brilliant chance to come a long way in the Pokal, and we blew it in that match. We talked about it before, Dahoud not playing in that match. That was such a disappointment in that game. John H., Big John 814 said injuries all day. Who is able to play all 34 matches, if any? Do you know that off the top of your head?
I don't think there was one.
Do we have anybody who played?
I don't think there was one. I mean, Jude had 32, but that was it. I mean, other than him, I don't even think anyone came close. I mean, Kobo missed a handful towards the end of the season. I mean, like I said before, Royce played, the most he's ever played since his career at Dortmund, but he only played 29 games.
Yeah. And then Tommy R344 said DFB Pokal Cup loss to St. Pauli. Said it was a truly awful performance by the team.
It was.
Oliver 1909 said the botched home games against Leverkusen in Leipzig.
I was going to say Leipzig is another one too.
So with all that said, there's no winner of the biggest disappointment category. I think with all that said, we can just say so much of this season was a disappointment.
The season as a whole was a disappointment. It really was. I was expecting us to do great things this season. I didn't think it was too irrational to think we can make a serious run in the Pokal, like make finals again. I don't think that's that too out of the question. Should have gotten out of that Champions League group. Wasn't an easy group, but it also wasn't the most difficult, and we should have done much better. And in the season as well, again, didn't make much of a race out of the title, much at all.
Do you have one particular thing that was one?
I'm going to go with a player, and it's going to be Guerrero. I think with just, he had a few knocks here and there, but he still played a lot of games this season. And, just compared to the rest of his career at this club, I think it was just really underwhelming in general. I mean, he started 21 games, played 23, so he missed a good 10 games. But in those 21 games, just didn't look that great.
Yeah. I'll do a player too, and I would say Reyna, because we had such high hopes for this season. And then just the fact that we weren't able to see him at all was such a letdown, such a disappointment. And then I also think just being knocked out of the cup competitions, being knocked out of Europe and the Pokal, huge disappointments. Because when it seemed like these are our chance to really do something, when we knew, I mean, the title race was not really ever on. And so I remember getting bumped out of Champions League and thinking, okay, well, at least we can make a really good run and to win Europa League.
Yep. And
then just to get knocked out of it. Granted, credit to Rangers because they went to the final, obviously.
Yeah, they played phenomenal that whole tournament.
But still, like that's a competition we should have went into with the ability to win.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's such a letdown.
I think, just games like that, you can go down the list of probably more than a dozen games this season where you are supposed to be entering those games with the mentality and optimism of we're going to go out and take the game to them and actually win. And I just never saw that under Rosa. I think that's something, part of his coaching game that really lacked, at least with Dortmund. But with Terzic, it was the complete opposite of that. I think we went into every game once he started getting more success momentum, and kind of worked some of the kinks out of his game first few weeks. We started to really look more of as like a competitive unit. Which accolade do you want to do next?
We'll jump into player to watch, which this was we specified on the interwebs that this was not one of our new signings coming in, because obviously I think my new signing coming in is going to be Schlotterbeck. I'm just so excited to see him and how he changes the back line and just all that. But so this was kind of like younger players or just a player you're excited to watch next season. We had a couple shots for Moukoko, and then we had a couple shots for Knauf, which I'm back and forth. I just I almost want to see him come in. He just has been playing so well.
And Terzic likes Knauf as well. I mean, he started Knauf in the Champions League at Man City, against Man City.
I didn't even think about that aspect. It's like it might change now with Terzic coming in. But yeah, or he could be on loan.
Yeah, I think he just still needs another year to really develop and kick his career into gear, and then he can come back a lot more mature on and off the field and really hit the ground running when he's back at Dortmund.
So and then our runner up for player to watch from the listener votes is Brandt, which I thought was kind of interesting.
It is really interesting. I remember seeing those responses as well.
Yeah, and then according to you, the player to watch for next season, Jamie Bino Gittins, who also gets my vote. He was like literally who I thought of when I made this category. I had one thought and said, I just want to show Jamie Bino Gittins some praise and some love. So he's my player to watch.
Although I do want to change my answer just because Terzic is now appointed as coach, and I want to say Moukoko because unlike Rosa, Terzic actually fancies Moukoko. And he can really take this opportunity to prove himself in training and make this season a breakout season for Moukoko, and maybe have, a reliable attacker for the next who knows how long. But right underneath that, absolutely, Jamie Bino Gittins. Very excited to see him as well.
Yeah, I did see some stuff on Twitter too about Moukoko definitely wanting to stay now with Terzic. As the coach, so that's exciting. Also, that just makes me think maybe him and I know they're real young, but him and Adeyemi up top playing as a two striker situation. I don't know if that's what Terzic wants to do, but that's kind of what Adeyemi did at Salzburg was another strike. It was like two strikers up top is what they played a lot. So could be interesting. Could be exciting.
Yeah. Yep. I'm excited to see.
Next category is underrated player. And all right, I'm glad that our listeners also, clearly they listen to us because they don't hate everything we say. But underrated player, Kobo came in at 3. Wolf came in at number 2, and in the number 1 spot, Julian Brandt, topping the listener votes online. And we've said it so many times. This is the Brandt Boys podcast. And clearly you listen to us because you're a fellow Brandt boy, and that's why he got the most amount of votes.
Yeah, it's a great shout. I'd probably have to put Brandt as my number 1 as well, just because of how much hate he gets. But a close number 2 for me would probably be Munier, just because people don't really rate him at all in general. I don't really see many people talking about him much online. But going back to Brandt, he has scored, I think, the most goals in his career so far with definitely with us, but in his Bundesliga career in general.
9 goals.
Yeah, 9 goals. 8 assists. His performances weren't like great, at least consistently, but on paper, that's a lot of goal contributions for a player that didn't start as many games as some other players. So
yeah. I know there were obviously some moments, and we talked a lot about it throughout the season, where he kind of dipped, fell off, and was pretty non-existent. But I'm going to reiterate, a lot of this team was non-existent throughout the season. And I think he did, obviously, if you want to look at the stats and kind of try to forget about those moments where he disappeared, if you look at the stats and remember the good stuff he did a lot of good stuff. So I'm glad that it's not all Twitter hate for Brandt. I'm glad there are some people showing him some love, because also that's how I feel. I felt, Kobo gets a good shout here too. I kind of was leaning towards Kobo in this category, which we'll get into it in the next category too. I think he's kind of split between these two categories, because when you look at, I think it's easy for him to be underrated. Like when you look at the Bundesliga as a whole, because we know all the big saves he made, but general Bundesliga fans or fans of other teams might not see it that way. When you look at the goals conceded, and he was like 12th on the saves in the Bundesliga. But yeah, he deserves, said it before, he deserves a lot of praise, a lot of credit. So big shouts to Kobo too. And I think the Wolf thing, he came in and did a job and with a lot of heart and passion. So I think I like that he got a lot of votes too on this one.
Yeah. No, I mean, so going back to Kobo, the reason that I wouldn't put him as underrated is because I think he is rated, and it's not like I'm not having a go at him at all. I just think a lot of people do give him the praise that he does deserve, at least in our fan base. So I probably wouldn't put him as underrated, but Wolf is definitely a solid shout. I think I even tend to underrate him at times for as much as he, the work that he puts into this team, and again, a utility player on either side of the fullbacks or going up the midfield as well.
All right, so we'll get into the final player of the season, and starting at our number 3 based on the listener votes. Royce getting the number 3 shout. Kobo sitting at number 2, which is good.
Another great
I
shout.
think a lot of people were really high on Kobo, and like we were just mentioning, like he that's why I said he kind of sits between the underrated and player of the season. I think a lot of people who didn't vote for him player of the season voted for underrated because they still wanted him to get some cred and some love. And then by far the most votes, not only in this category, but in all the categories we did, talked about him before, Jude Mother effing Bellingham taking it easily.
And I'm really happy that our fan base recognizes that. I was honestly, whenever we were thinking about making these polls for I'm not having to go with the listeners either, but I was just imagining a lot of our fan base being like Haaland, and not even batting an eye at other players. But the fact that like Haaland didn't get barely any votes and Bellingham won by this much, it goes to show you that, not only the club, the actual board and, the coaching staff respects him and rates him, but the fan base also realizes that he is an unbelievable player. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are calling for him to be our next captain, and leader, and they want him to lead us to greatness. And yeah, I hope he sticks around a while. I know he's going to be here next season. He already confirmed that he's here next season for sure. But yeah, he's so good. And so Dortmund did put out these stats earlier for all competitions. He played 44 games, 6 goals, 14 assists, 72 successful dribbles, 84 tackles. I'm going to reiterate the Bundesliga stats that I mentioned before. Sprints and intensive runs, he came in at 3rd. Duels won, came in at 3rd in the Bundesliga with 433. And then assists, he was 11th in the Bundesliga with his 8. And just all this from an 18-year-old. And
I was about to say,
and it's not even him being technically gifted, which he is. But it's
which he is.
Obviously the tackles run and the intensive runs, but like the physical presence and just the leadership that he does bring to the field. He's just such a commanding presence at such a young age, which is so incredible. It's so good.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, again, you have to keep reiterating that this kid is 18 years old, and it's not only that he has that leadership mentality and he has that, physical ability to just what seems like just throw himself into every single challenge like it's, his last game. But at the same time, the team around him listens to him. The players listen to him, and they want to learn and watch him lead by example. So it's not like he's just doing this for, not getting recognized by the coaching staff or the players on the field. I mean, he is the man.
Yeah. I love that just the stats reflect how good he is too, because he's almost you could almost see people, I think people who maybe don't follow the Bundesliga or definitely don't watch Dortmund, they might rate him, but not see everything that he does. You know what I mean? So to be able to just look at the stats, the Bundesliga stats, and see Bellingham, you know what I mean? See him everywhere. It's like, yeah. Without a doubt, he is one of the best players at such a young age. It's incredible. Can't say it enough. He's so good.
You can't say it enough. You can't say enough about the kid.
And I do have to say, I have to like bite my tongue from earlier in the season when I think I even made a comment, and I don't even think this was me being an idiot. I mean, it kind of was, but this is also me being a newer Dortmund fan and trying to figure things out. But it's from when I saw him last season, a little more inconsistent, didn't get as much playing time, but I called him like a luxury player. And I'm glad that he was just like, he was not that, but one of our most important players. And I'm fessing up, and I'll admit that I said that before and I was completely wrong, but also that was based on me seeing him not always getting the time that he probably deserved back then. Obviously he was young and still developing, but like for him to just step in this season and be our number one on the team sheet
every single game,
him or Kobo, just
it's not even a question with him. I mean, he's just an automatic starter. Once he got that role, is just no going back for him. And you're not alone in that fact that you were completely proven wrong. I was completely proven wrong as well. I remember the game where I realized I was proven wrong specifically. We were still under Favre, and we were at home against Munich. It was the first meeting of us, or our two meetings, and Bellingham came on in the second half, and our game went from like just abysmal and just had no faith in ourselves whatsoever to completely changing our mentality and actually going out and trying to get a result. And that was solely because of the engine that Bellingham brought to that team. Again, so going forward, I really hope we can extend him for as long as we can keep him. And I can picture him being a captain if he wants to build a legacy here. I mean, he's only 18. It's not like he can, if he wants to leave soon, he's still got his whole career ahead of him. So,
yeah. And I don't know. It seems exciting if we are truly building this project and moving forward. I feel like if we're going to actually move forward, actually build this thing out and can become one of the top teams in Europe. Obviously we play Champions League every season, but if we can win the Bundesliga, be a real contender, and then and really be one of the top teams in Europe, then yeah, that's going to convince someone like him to stay, because young, hungry, wants to play with the best teams. Obviously, there's going to be a time where a move is going to be really tempting, and we might see him go. More probable, we're going to see him go. But that's what these players want. They want to be top. They want to be playing for the top team that has the biggest ambition to go for Champions League titles. That we got to be honest. That's like what team he's going to want to go play for. So let's become that team.
I was going to say, if we can actually continue investing the resources like we have been this spring so far, notice how I didn't even mention this transfer window yet. I think we do have the ability to maybe go and actually fucking challenge Bayern next season. And if we can do that and prove to Jude that we are competitors for the title and we can go win silverware on a at least semi-consistent basis, maybe he would want to build something here.
All right. We did it. We did go way longer than any other episode, but I'm not mad about it because
a lot to cover.
We didn't hit 2 hours, like Stefan said, but
we could have, but I don't feel like doing that.
Getting kind of hungry. Might need to eat here soon.
Yeah.
I mean, do you have anything else? I was going to mention that the women are playing this Sunday in their Kriespokal final. This Sunday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. I don't have the stream details, but I'm sure we'll get that soon. As soon as we get those details, if you want to watch the women in that cup final, we'll be putting that on our Twitter. Again, follow Adam at Fußball Tweet. We've got all his info. And the women's, if you want to need any like stats or anything from the women's team this season, got to check out his website, and he'll have the streaming details too once that's published. So check our Twitter feed, our Instagram at thebvbpod, and then also follow Adam. Carver, do you have anything else?
Not much. Just keep an eye on Sebastian Kehl going into this summer. I mean, keep an eye on Lotka and Meyer for sure. I would imagine one, if not both of those goalkeepers will be announced in the coming week, which is going to be great because, again, we lost Hitz and Berkey, so we're going to need a number 2. And, hopefully, which at the end, if we don't get it, it's not the end of the world. I think, again, we just need a number 6, but hopefully we can also invest in another attacker as well, specifically an actual striker, like an out-and-out number 9. And, man, if we can lock down a number 2 and a number 9, you better be watching us next season because I say it every season and get disappointed, but I really do think this is a year that we can go out and compete in every cup competition in the league, you name it.
Yeah. All right, this is where I'm going to get all up in my feels and everything, but Carv and I started this podcast kind of on a whim. I was like, hey man, you want to talk about Dortmund stuff and maybe record it? And had no... I didn't know how many people were going to listen, but way more people have been listening than what I thought. So I'm just going to say thank you so much for everyone who's like stuck with us, listened to one episode and was like, I'll give them another go. And then has stuck around for a long time. And thank you everyone who's shared the podcast, rated, reviewed. We really appreciate it. Again, this has like gotten a little bigger than what we thought or expected, what I thought or expected. And it's been super fun. It's been like so cool to do and be able to share Dortmund and our thoughts and everything with you guys and have you guys share your thoughts with us. And it's been so cool. Like just even the Twitter experience, watching games and getting on Twitter and like being in the moment with everybody who listens and interacts with the show. So I really appreciate everyone who listens. It's been awesome. We're not going to be gone. We're obviously going to take some time off. We're not going to do weekly episodes like we've been doing. If there's some big announcements, big signings, we'll probably come on. We might have some guests over the summer, so just be looking out for episodes, but it's definitely not going to be a week-to-week thing like we've been until we get fully back into the season.
Yeah, just to tackle on that, a huge thank you to everyone who's just listened, participated, whatever you want to call it, interacted with the show in pretty much every way. Jake already mentioned it, but it has been a blast. I've been having a lot of fun doing this show ever since we started, and I'm excited already next season. Again, plenty of guests that we're looking to have on that some of you probably already know. We're looking to have a handful of different fun segments to get more people involved and get different things going. But all in all, yeah, very fun last few months. Thank you again from the bottom of both of our hearts.
Yeah, and one last thing, there's a chance. So as this continues to grow, we might do more stuff. I mean, we've slightly thrown around the idea of like, what if we do some live streams or do more video content and stuff like that? So obviously we've just been doing the audio podcast, but there's a lot more we could do and we know that. So we might progress more. We're also like, Carv and I both have full-time jobs. So this has just been like a fun, almost hobby thing that's kind of like taken off in a cool way. But if there's anything that like you as a listener thinks like, oh, it'd be cooler, I would like to watch a live stream if you guys do that, or anything, maybe I'm not saying I want to copy what other podcasts do, but if there's other stuff that other shows do and you think that could be a benefit to you, I don't know. We'll take some ideas. We'll reconvene over the summer and we'll kind of come up with a plan for next season. I don't know. I didn't run any of that by Carver, so I don't know Carver's thoughts, but no. I'd love to hear what you would think is beneficial to you, the listener.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with all of that, especially the live streaming part. I would love to watch a game with the supporters of the club and just kind of interact with whoever is in the chat at the time. I think that'd be great, great fun for Jake and I, great fun for the listeners to actually engage with other fans while, watching Dortmund. So.
And besides that, I don't think I have any other ideas. So I think that's it. But again, you can follow us. Please follow us, especially in the off season, on Twitter and Instagram at the BVB Pod. You can reach out on email, thebvbpod@gmail.com. If you haven't already done so, rate and review on Spotify and Apple because it helps spread the word, the good word of Dortmund and the BVB podcast. So again, we really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And we will see you sometime soon.
Bye, everyone.